Yo guys, Coach Theo here on Common Sense. I came up with this solution so that you guys can hear me well, but I can stay shirtless and be sort of a human anatomy chart for you guys. We're going to be talking about abs today, specifically one exercise, the one I call the lower abs solution, and that I actually just did in a gym. I had to go to a gym to do some exercises, among others this ab exercise because I needed equipment. Then I had cat feeding duties, and now I'm going to do my front squats here, and then I have clients to work with. So it's just going to work quite well to do a video like this today. So I'm going to be talking more about this one exercise later, and I have an old ab video, like a more full video for how to develop good abs, but I could do a new updated one. So please guys, let me know in the comments if you'd like to see that. I'm going to start off now and talk about some general things about abs before I get to this exercise. And I have some footage. I'm sorry if it doesn't perfectly sync up with when I talk, but I'll be talking about everything that you see on video as well. So first of all, abs, one myth, I was going to say, it's not necessarily a myth, but you probably heard abs are made in the kitchen. It's not quite true. They are not made in the kitchen, but they're revealed in the kitchen. It doesn't matter if you have the strongest, biggest, chunkiest abs in the world. If they're covered by too much fat, you're just not going to get abs, right? But the thing is that to just get abs, most people wouldn't have to train them directly. It would be better, but if we talk about what you have to do, like if you just progressively overload on full body movements, like big compound movements, different squats, rows, deadlifts, chin-ups, dips, kinds of movements. If you add, you got to realize that the core, the abs for the entire core, it sits right there in the middle of the body. If you get bigger and stronger on your entire body, it's gonna happen something here as well. It's just that if we want to reach full development, of course, we're gonna want to isolate. But just realize that if you're pushing full body, like good, when I mean full body exercise, I don't mean that every exercise you do targets the entire body, but like big exercises, you're targeting your entire body somehow with big exercises and get stronger on them, you're gonna develop some abs as well. And then you just have to learn gradually to diet and get down to low enough body fat and be able to maintain and stay there to be in a kind of permanent state of having abs, right? But so what we also have to realize about abs is that everyone can get abs, okay? You just have to, because for most people, just getting stronger and getting lean enough, they would have some abs. There are some exceptions for people that just have underdeveloped abs, that they really had to build a bit more abs here, right? But the point is that everyone can achieve what we would call abs, or some kind of six-pack, but there's some, I'm gonna get to that too. Everyone could have some good aesthetics going on their belly is the point, but it is highly genetic, as in both the shape of your ab muscle bellies, but also where you're most prone to store body fat, right? So just realize that if you see some person's abs and you're like, oh man, I really want that, you might be able to get equally as impressive, reach the same kind of level of having abs, but it might just not look like that person because you have a completely different starting points, genetics, right? So if we take me as an example here, what I have going for me is that the upper four are kind of big and chunky, and they will, even when I bulk and put on a bit more fat, they'll kind of stick around pretty much like this, right? But I have the stubborn lower belly fat, right? That's always been a point. I also have some anterior pelvic tilt if I completely relax, sort of get the little belly almost. And now I'm still quite lean, obviously, but I'm not at my peak leanness like I was this summer. But you can still see that there's some hint of things being like, you're just not the complete cuts for abs like this, but like some shape around it. It's not just a blob, right? And when I get down low enough, I kind of get a six-pack. There's no clear divide necessarily here, but you can kind of see cut off here, right? And so I can even feel, actually, beneath the fat here, I can kind of feel the eight-pack. And so if I've gotten quite lean, but I never got into like bodybuilding contest, like 5% body fat level. Maybe, possibly, I had close to an 8-pack if I got down that low. But the point is that for someone like me, because I get some cred for my abs, the big chunky abs, but when I was younger, I just saw, I felt of it like, if I don't have the complete thing, it's not real. So even if it looked, I was smaller, but I kind of had this when I was more of an athletic teenager, but in my mind, I didn't have abs because it's supposed to look a certain way. So just be aware that embrace. Now I'm pretty happy with this, even like, okay, I could think it was cool to have a full 8-pack, right? But so the lower abs, because there are some guys, even when they have more body fat than me, some guys are really lucky in the body fat distribution department, like the shape of their abs, but also that they just don't store quite as much fat down here. They kind of have that 8-pack going all the time, right? But the lower abs, it is a typical weak point when it comes to abs, both because many people tend to store a bit more fat at their lower belly, like even when you start to lose fat, it just sticks around a bit more here, but also we're typically weaker in our lower abs. It's a typical weak point. And so now let's get to the exercise. I've been, it's barely 2 months or something I've been doing this, just under 2 months I've been doing this exercise twice per week. And so just to talk about why I think it's so good is that hypertrophy bros have known for a long time that emphasizing the stretched position in an exercise is great for hypertrophy. It's one of these little hacks that you still have to do the work, but if you consistently focus on, you don't have to have all of your exercise, but you have exercises in your program with a good stretch, you can actually improve your flexibility, and it's beneficial for hypertrophy. I've been aware of this for like half the time I've been training. I just noticed this, right? And especially lately, there have been content creators, coaches, that has been talking about it, but especially lately, there's been more science to back this up to. So if we want to, let's say this, the last thing before we go into the exercise, the entire abs here, like the 8-pack, whether it's visible or not, those muscles, it is one muscle group, and we cannot completely isolate that. Now I just train upper abs, now I just train lower abs. But we can influence and focus a bit more. So more of a bottom-up movement would typically be more lower abs, and a more crunch movement top-down would be a bit more upper abs. But you always target everything. But since the lower abs is what often is lacking, we could of course have you could benefit from having a crunch movement too, but what I'm saying is if you're to focus on one, it should be something that focuses more on the lower abs. So this one I've come up with, it is a crunch movement, but the position just makes it so that it would really focus on those lower abs, right? So it's in the hyperextension, the 45-degree hyperextension machine. You would typically do back extensions there, right, for lower back, glutes, hamstrings. But I've experimented a lot with this, and after I saw one clip of someone doing something similar, it just occurred to me, like, man, if I do a crunch in there, it's gonna put right at the bottom, it is going to be such a huge stretch on specifically the lower abs. And so I started trying it, and I was not disappointed. Let me tell you, even if you could, from a strength perspective, use some weight, I just started doing body weight because it burns something extreme, this exercise, especially when it's new to you. So the position, I've noticed I like to put it so that my entire lower back is free. It's just my glutes into the pad there. And then I stand on my toes in the thing, if that makes sense. That's how I don't have my complete foot in. But then you just lean back. And let me tell you, there's some reflex with leaning back. It took me a long time to not feel like I'm going to fall. And they even knew it's not logical, because when you do a back extension, it's the same kind of length of the lever. I've used way more weight, but it just feels, when you're not seeing, it feels like, I'm going to fall, you know. So a lot of it is just getting used to the exercise, right? But so there's been a variation I've been doing, like honestly, that I started experimenting in the hyperextension thing is because I'm sorting out some hip problems, and this is really working for me. But doing a one-sided version, when you just put one foot and you have the other one free, man, it hits the hip flexor even more, because that's the thing, the hip flexors and lower abs, they have overlapping functions here, right, in, you know, this kind of thing going. And that's great for me, this one, but it really burns in the abs too. But you can really, I've never felt the hip flexor so deep there, right? And when I do, this is what you notice, I try to focus on that version a bit more of the hip flexor, because I have some rehab to do there. Then is when I actually start pushing the foot into the pad there. So I pull myself less by crunching and a little bit more by pushing my leg into the thing. And this one burned so much that, because you're not completely isolate one side, right? So I started like doing alternating sometimes. Instead of doing like 10 reps for one side, because I have to rest so long before I can do the other one, like do 3 reps, 3 reps, 3 reps, 3 back and forth. And so, to just tell you my system, how I've done it now, because it's in part a rehab exercise, I do like these sets that I wouldn't typically do, that are like the one-sided version, that they are not completely to failure or anything, they're just to get good stimulating volume in from a rehab perspective. And then I have one top set, which is more my heavy set, where I use progressive overload with weight, right? And so I worked up to one top set with a bar. I have a bar. We can talk about different weights. For me, it just works well to have a bar hanging here now, because it doesn't make the lever so very long, and it's an easy way to progressively overload. But at some point, I think I'll change. You could hold a weight in front of you, but I even been thinking about holding something above your head, because you're going to be such a long lever, right? And the center of gravity will be so far out that you'll be able to use way less weight. So that's something I have in mind for when I start to hit the wall with just progressing with the weight right here, right? But one thing, when you start, it's such an extreme hyperextension. It's not necessarily like spinal contract, like when you have a lot of weight on your back. It's just you get pulled by the weight into such an extreme hyperextension. So I thought first, when I started doing it, that this might be quite uncomfortable at higher weights. But I noticed I seem to have adapted. It was more comfortable than I thought. But anyway, the progression scheme I've used this is one of few exercises where I don't just try to push to failure, give it all I got. It's gonna have to be close to failure still, obviously, but I just know that this has been burning a lot. I could get sore going nowhere near failure without any weight the first few times. So for an exercise like this, I just know that as long as I progress every workout, like it's gonna be close to failure. I'll have to find out if maybe I had one more rep. I'll just leave room. So I started with like 20 kilos, did 10 reps, next workout 11 reps, next workout 12, all the way up to 15. Did the same with 25. Now I've just started over with 30 kilos. I think I showed today's set with 12 reps with 30 kilos. Yeah, guys, this is just a great ab exercise, like my current favorite, the best. You know, I'm a nerd. I always try to find like what are the best go-to exercises for different things, and any weighted crunch could get the job done, but I've never felt like I found an ab exercise like, man, this hits all the boxes, and I really feel optimistic about being able to improve like the lower ab area. Like leg raise is a good exercise, but it's like, it's harder, it's easier to hit a limit, I feel like, and there's just not that same stretch. So I'm really excited about this one. I'm going to start to implement it with a lot of clients. So if you are a client of mine that's active and you're watching now, send me a message if you'd be curious, and we can get this into your program, because I'm very excited to see what it does for me, but especially with people that I say they already have quite good ab development, right? But so as a little bonus, I can just say, because I do, if you guys ask, I can do a complete new ab video with more exercises, and maybe talk about the sides too, and not just the abs or lower abs. But this hyperextension machine, they're a really interesting exercise you can do. I do now, and again, it's a bit for rehab for me as well. Unilateral, you just like back extension, you take one leg out, it gets so focused on the hamstring and glute, and it is effectively like sort of unilateral stiff-legged deadlift when you're locked in place like that. And I've done this adductor thing now, that one, adductor exercise, along with the ab exercise I talked about, but just the one-sided one, seems to be doing wonders for my hip problem, because it is on the hip flexor inside kind of position, right? And it's going away gradually. So it's a very interesting adductor exercise. But then you can do oblique raises. To me, also the best, easiest exercise to overload the obliques with. Side raises in a hyperextension, and I've been trying lately, I forgot. Instead, it would make sense to have the weight in the outer arm, you know, but if you take it in the other arm, you can get this twist, added twist too, and that's of course also a function of the obliques. So yeah, just to mention a few other things, the hyperextension machine. Everyone, so many people think they need to use that, or train the lower back, because that's important. It's like most people, if they just had a proper program, they wouldn't even have to do that. But if you know what you're doing, there's a lot of good to get out of that little chair or machine or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, guys, be very curious. Let me know. Let me know any questions about this that I talked about here, or if you want that full ab video. Like and comment. I do holistic bodybuilding, of course, getting jacked and stacked mentally, physically, spiritually, working ourselves, body, mind, and soul, and proper programming prevails, okay? If you get the job done, if you can go do the things, it's within the workout program. There's most room for optimization. So if you are interested, you can send me a DM on Instagram or email me. I'll get back to you with my different options. You can pick up my training book, everything mindset, technique, and just philosophy related that you need to become a self-reliant, jacked and stacked individual. You can become a Patreon, $8 per month, give you access to all exclusive content, mostly solo podcasts with me. And please subscribe for more content about fitness, fast losing weight, building muscle, self-improvement, stoicism, mental health, philosophy, spirituality, mindset. It is a mindset, guys. I just noticed myself. I've been talking so much, but look pretty good. Okay, guys, peace.